don't know, and they're very stereotypical. When you hear the term music, do you think of rap blasting people's cars with the subwoofer open and ghetto lyrics streaming out the windows? Or do you think of classical licks, violence, soaring high melodies? Jewish music can be defined to be something beautiful. In order to better understand Jewish music during the Baroque era, it is imperative that we study the history of the Jewish liturgy for just a brief second. Now, Rome destroyed Jewish kingdom in the 1st century of CE. Most Jews were forced into exile. But while the Jews were forced into this exile, they preserved the chants of the Mideastern homeland. The use of musical instruments in the synagogue was prohibited because of this exile. They did not want to have these happy instruments. They wanted to maintain the mourning phase. And rabbis wanted no part of the Gentile influence. So Jewish music remained monophonic for a long time. And by monophonic, I mean it was very simple, a simple melody, and it was not polyphonic. There was not many layers, just one layer. It was also modal and improvised melodic formulas, closely bound to natural rhythms. Jewish musical practices began to change in synagogues after 1600, but cantillation did remain the primary form. You may ask yourself, what is cantillation? Cantillation is a mode of intonation used in public recital of prayers and Holy Scripture. It does not depend upon the rhythm and sequences of the sounds chanted, but upon the rhythm and sequence of the syllables to which they are chanted. Several rabbinical declarations denounced the use of pop tunes or non-Jewish tunes because they did not want people to use these, and rather they wanted to use their own traditional ones. These chants that they did start to use were still used today in Orthodox Jewish synagogues. They are known by written descriptions. The start of the 1600s, they did introduce polyphony into synagogue services. This was a big change in Jewish music. Modena was a humanist scholar, as well as a rabbi and cantor. He lived in 1571 and died in 1648. Modena was important because he improvised lots of polyphony in a synagogue in Ferrara. He then moved to Venice, so he was kind of in the culture where the music was changing a lot, especially during the Baroque era in Venice. Modena wrote preface to the first published book of polyphony. Who in fact wrote that actually was Solomon Rossi. But Modena did write the preface because they kind of worked together on this Jewish influence of the new style of Jewish polyphony. The book is actually titled Hishirim Asher L'Sachmal, which is the Songs of Solomon. They follow the style of Rossi's secular music, and also you can taste some of the Monteverdi in there. It has elements of Italian Jewish chant, obviously, because it is Jewish, but the Italian you can see in there. Solomon Rossi was very important to the Jewish culture. He was a violinist and a composer. He worked for the court of the Gonzaga family in Mantua. He has some published works, including 6 books of madrigals, 1 book of duets, 1 book of canzonets, 4 books of instrumental work, and 1 ballet. He also has that 1 collection of Hebrew motets, which is probably his most important thing, because it is 33 settings of Hebrew psalms, hymns, and synagogues worship prize. And so this was an important time in the Jewish culture, in the Jewish Orthodox religion, and just how they were going to make the transition from old time to the new time, because music was moving fast, and if the Jewish people were going to be left behind, now's the time when they'd be left in the dust. But they started to evolve with the times. They did start the study of Western music in the 15th and 16th century, so it was kind of pre-Baroque to the Baroque era, so they were starting to move. They were a little bit slower than some of the other religions, but that's just because they had this grasp of what was going on, and they felt confident about the songs they had, that it contributed to their worship, and so they didn't think that they needed to move as quickly as some of the others. Basically, the most important thing about Jewish Baroque music is that while it took a while to evolve, they were set in their ways. Their words meant everything to them. They did not want the instrumental influences on the outside to bring them out of the part, but they wanted the people to feel the words and to feel a part of the worship. Jewish Baroque music is something beautiful, something gorgeous, and something that it'll be around for a long time just because we'll hear the beautiful sounds, the beautiful tones, and it'll be great. I love Jewish Baroque music.